Lake Champlain may be the crown jewel of our region, but the 125-mile-long natural resource is also at risk. And despite a lot of government spending to address pollution and new ecological threats, the new analysis from the Lake Champlain Basin Program tells us we're a long way from declaring victory. Some background now from NBC5's Liz Streppa.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Every 3 years, the Lake Champlain Basin Program releases its highly anticipated report about the state of the lake.
It's actually become the go-to source of information about Lake Champlain.
It helps to answer several key questions.
Can we swim in the lake? Can we drink the lake water that comes from our taps? Can we eat the fish that we catch?
The short answer is yes. The report's findings show the overall state of the lake is good. Its water quality meets the goals of the Clean Water Act.
This recent State of the Lake report confirms that our work towards the restoration of Lake Champlain is having a positive impact across the basin.
But nitrogen and phosphorus levels, which can cause cyanobacteria blooms, are still a concern. The EPA put several steps in place to help Vermont reduce its phosphorus runoff, and it says communities' efforts to upgrade combined sewer systems to reduce the occurrence of overflows is helping to resolve this issue, but there's still work to do.
Clean water in Lake Champlain is critical to the diverse habitats and working landscapes of the region.
The report says the lake's habitats continue to be threatened by invasive species like the water chestnut, sea lamprey, and zebra mussels, though increased efforts to prevent new invasive species from getting into the lake are helping.
Hydrologic barrier alternatives on the Champlain Canal are being studied, and watercraft inspection and decontamination programs are intercepting aquatic invasive species from entering and leaving the lake.
Over the past year, the Lake Champlain Basin saw a dramatic increase in use because of the pandemic, which highlights the need for conserved lands and public spaces.
Luckily, almost 40% of the Lake Champlain Basin lands are conserved. Those places provided a setting for hiking, mountain biking, bird watching, camping, hunting, and fishing.
And as many people continue to explore all Lake Champlain has to offer, the Lake Champlain Basin Program is asking everyone to do something the next time they visit the lake. Take a look at the surrounding neighborhoods and take some notes.
Do people have storm barrels? Do they implement rain gardens? Do you see any runoff that should be fixed?
If you see something out of place, say something. It'll help make the lake a cleaner, safer place for everyone to enjoy. Liz Streppa, NBC5 News.
Joining us this Sunday, Eric Howe. He's the director of the Lake Champlain Basin Program. And on the right, Meg Modley. She is the Aquatic Invasive Species Management Coordinator for the Basin Program. Welcome to NBC5 In Depth.
Thank you, Stuart.
Your report presents some good news and some not so good news. How would you characterize, Eric, the changes, the trend lines in the health of Lake Champlain broadly?
Sure. Thanks, Stuart. So this new report highlights, as you mentioned, some good new trends, and particularly with phosphorus loading in certain areas of the lake, the amount of phosphorus that's sent to the lake from the river network, and in some areas of the lake, and also with a few other components as well. We do have some not so good news to share about the frequency of cyanobacteria or blue-green algae blooms in the lake, and on some of the healthy ecosystem indicators around sea lamprey wounding and invasive species arrivals in the lake.
Meg, your specialty is invasive species, and that's generated a lot of attention the last 10 years or more. What would you say about sort of the trend lines there?
Thanks, Stuart. Yeah, I think it's actually a pretty positive story. The source of most of the aquatic invasive species that come into Lake Champlain are from the Great Lakes ecosystem, and those are introduced by ballast water taken on in freshwater ports in other countries, and that introduction to the Great Lakes has slowed in the past few decades. We're also seeing a slow introduction of invasive species into Lake Champlain. Unfortunately, in the last 3 years, we did have the introduction of the invasive crustacean, the fishhook water flea, which many anglers are encountering at this time of the year because they boom in population when the water gets above 68 degrees. And they have hooks on their tails that get stuck on downriggers and fishing line, and they can foul those lines. Unfortunately, they're also very small, so they can travel in water in bilge and motors and in live wells. And so it's really important that we're cleaning and draining and drying our boats and equipment when we're leaving Lake Champlain, so we don't take it to the many bodies of water that do not have invasive species near us. That said, from year to year, the populations of different invasive species that we most encounter, like the zebra mussels or Eurasian water milfoil in the lake, they change depending on the conditions. This year, since we had so little snow melt and we had a warm early season, we're going to expect that the water temperatures warm more quickly and there's less mixing, which will favor aquatic plant growth and may favor cyanobacteria blooms.
This is really a fabulous report. It's super readable. It's available online through the Lake Champlain Basin Program.org website. I thought it was excellent. But I'm trying to reconcile the rather sunny, optimistic tone of the political leaders and the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources Secretary Julie Moore in summing up sort of where we have come in the last couple of years with some of the indicators in this report. And I want to ask you specifically about a few of them. There are 5 segments of the lake, so you don't generalize. You're pretty specific. And in terms of phosphorus, which we associate with runoff from farms and from roads, phosphorus in the lake, in 3 of the 5 segments, it is poor. And if anything, the trend line seems to be getting worse, Eric. That's discouraging to see.
It is, yes. The amount of phosphorus in a lake is important for a number of things, particularly for cyanobacteria or blue-green algae blooms. It's a nutrient that can feed those blooms and also many other elements of the Lake Champlain ecosystem, plants and fish and all the other parts of the lake. So it's an important element to have in the lake. We, just like anything else, we don't want to have too much of it, and that's what this particular indicator is looking at, and is noting that for most of the lake segments that we have data for, we have too much phosphorus in the lake. I'll note that in Mallett's Bay, we've rated that one as with a fair ranking. We have we use the kind of a sort of a stoplight system with a red ranking is poor condition, yellow is fair, and then blue is good. And Mallett's Bay and the South Lake are now ranked as fair, whereas in the previous report, or a couple of previous reports, they were ranked in the red or poor conditions. So from that perspective, they actually are improving a little bit in terms of the phosphorus concentrations have come down, and they're approaching or getting closer towards their limits or their targets that we're looking for those parts of the lake. But there's still a ways to go to actually see a reversal in the trend, which is also important for the long term.
Well, the EPA reduced the TMDL, the total maximum daily load of phosphorus for Lake Champlain several years ago. Are we missing the mark because we are being held to a stricter standard, or is our phosphorus loading getting no better?
The phosphorus loading is the amount of phosphorus that's sent to the lake from the rivers each year, which is the loading, is not improving in several lake segments. Missisquoi Bay in particular, which is seen phosphorus problems in the water column itself in the bay, and also too much phosphorus being sent to it from the rivers in the Missisquoi watershed, and also phosphorus is cycling up into the water column from sediment. So there's a lot of phosphorus moving through that system. Some of the systems are actually starting to turn the corner in terms of the amount of phosphorus that's sent to the lake from the rivers. And so it's kind of a mixed story depending on which part of the lake you're looking at.
But so Missisquoi Bay, Mallett's Bay, and the main lake, which I think one of the speakers at your news conference this week said accounts for 80% of the water volume in Lake Champlain is the main lake. And that's
Yes.
red. So
it is. So we had too much phosphorus sent to the lake, to that particular lake segment, in this case, the main lake, over the past 3 years. If you're looking at the indicators table, that tilde or the squiggly line means that there's not a significant trend in either direction
right.
over the long term. And so there, it's, if you want to take a glass half full approach, that means that it's not getting worse. If you want to take a glass half empty approach, that means that it's not getting any better either.
I think we should note that the phosphorus that you calculate is coming from wastewater treatment plants around Lake Champlain was all in blue across the board, all good,
Yep. Yes.
which I think is the best category, in fact. And I think that might come as a surprise to a lot of people who kind of assume that a lot of this comes from stormwater overflow, and you found that is not the case.
Yeah, that's right, Stuart. That is kind of a common misconception about the wastewater treatment facilities across the basin. That source of phosphorus has been addressed pretty directly by the EPA in the states and the towns over the past 30 years or so. We have a figure in the report that actually highlights that significantly decreasing trend in the amount of phosphorus sent to the lake by the wastewater treatment facility systems. And as far as combined sewer overflows go, that is correct. Several of our municipalities in the watershed have sewer systems that both receive stormwater from rainfall and brown water from septic collection systems. And when we get heavy, intense storms, that can overflow those combined sewer systems. In the grand scheme of things, it's actually not a lot of phosphorus that is sent to the lake from those combined sewer overflows. It adds up to about 0.04% of the total amount of phosphorus sent to the lake each year is from those sewer overflows. So not much. The bigger concern is with coliform bacteria from untreated sewage. From a phosphorus perspective, it's not a large input.
Well, that's an important point. Meg, in the south part of the lake, which I guess we can define as south of the Crown Point or Champlain Bridge, the invasive species that seem to get the most attention are the water chestnuts. I've been down there, and it's almost as if you could walk across the lake where it gets pretty narrow. Is that a problem that is just here to stay? It's bright red on your new report.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. The water chestnut, the invasive water chestnut population in the South Lake is where it is the most prevalent. However, it is a great success story. This is an annual plant that has little nutlets, and at the end of the growing season, they fall down and bury in the sediments. And unfortunately, those nutlets can be viable for a number of years. But with continued resources pouring towards the management of this species, we're able to mechanically harvest it in areas where the water is deep enough and where there's greater than 25% coverage. You're correct. In the South Lake, it looks much like a putting green. And under those dense beds of water chestnut, there's very little oxygen in the water. So it's not great habitat for anything. But we've been working really hard with federal, state, and local partners to reduce the extent of the population. We've pushed it from Crown Point all the way down to the Dresden Narrows. The goal is to eliminate the need for mechanical harvesting and move just to hand harvesting and surveying where we have smaller populations or they're in shallower backwaters, which we can only access with canoes and kayaks.
I've got half a minute left. The report also, I should note, does indicate that the lake is freezing over much less often due to the impact from climate change. But Eric, bottom line, we are spending tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars every year to try to improve the health of Lake Champlain. Where do you think we're going to be when you write your next report 3 years from now?
The famous crystal ball. I'd like to think that some of these trends that we're seeing with improvements in phosphorus loading are going to continue to improve. A lot of that is dependent on what we, the residents of the basin, do and can do here in the watershed, but also on what Mother Nature has in store for us for large storm events and other climate events that can change things pretty quickly. From cyanobacteria blooms. The pessimist in me is going to say that there probably will not improve. We will not see a lot of improvement. That's going to take a long time to address those concerns. And I'm hopeful that we will not have any new invasive species to report in 3 years.
Eric Howe is the director of the Lake Champlain Basin Program. Meg Modley is the coordinator who focuses on invasive species. Many thanks to you both for being here on NBC5 In Depth.
Thank you,
Stuart.